Good evening and welcome to the Mary Murphy Files, our Pix 11 Facebook Live Monday night show. We do this every week. And I've been a reporter for more than 35 years in New York City, my hometown. I mostly do investigative stories. I sometimes do human interest reports. But I can tell you for the last 10 days, I've pretty much been consumed by the Junior files. I did get some access to some of the evidence in the case, and I was trying to open up the files, make sense of them, report as accurately as I could, because that's what we're supposed to do. You have to be responsible with a case like this. And if there was anything new, I was trying to bring it to you. Some people thought they'd get more information than I brought last week in the first 3 reports. But I have to be very careful in the way I present information, and I do my best. And I guess that's why I'm still around after 35 years. After the stories aired last week, I was contacted by the sister of Jason Velez. Jason Velez is the last person to spend time with 15-year-old Junior Guzman-Feliz before the teenager was chased to a bodega on June 20th and then stabbed to death. Jason Velez said that he warned Junior not to go to Adam's Place in the Bronx, which was near Junior's home. He did, though, place the call to Junior that brought the teenager out of the house on that Wednesday night. I went out of state to meet him. He says that he fears for his life because he's been getting a lot of threats. He had to close down most of his social media accounts. Here is some of what Jason Velez had to say.
They blame me just because I was the last person that was physically with them. They're just sitting there saying that I basically set up Junior and everything, when in all reality, I didn't even know what was gonna happen to Junior. It was exactly 9:54, I texted Junior. Junior said that he was playing his PlayStation 4. He came down the block and he gave me $5. Me and Chanel, we was already about to smoke. He mentioned to me that he had felt like going to Adam's Place. He knew a girl over there that he was talking to, so I just thought maybe, he was gonna go see her. He was telling me about a situation that happened to one of his friends, and I told him that it occurred on Adam's Place apparently. He had told me that one of his friends, there was 60 guys, 5 different cars, and that they hopped out on his friend and that they chased him down the block, and that apparently that they knocked him out, that the car drove by slowly after and looked at him.
Looked at Junior. So when did that happen?
He was telling me that happened a few days prior before his death. One of the guys, they just sat there and they mean mugged him.
Stared at him?
Yes.
Did you ever hang out at Adam's Place?
No.
Why?
Because to be honest with you, I just never liked that crowd. I was like, bro, the streets is nothing to play with. Every day you wake up, as soon as you step out your door, it's a gamble, because who you hang out with, you gotta really sit there and choose your friends wisely. Junior basically was an innocent bystander who just, he died because he was down by association. From the beginning, police have noted that Junior had no criminal background. No, he didn't.
And they say, when this happened, some of the people from the Explorers were devastated. Some of the volunteers and people from the precinct that knew him, they were devastated. So the Explorers organization continued to see him as a good kid, and even now there are 2 scholarships named after him. What do you make of that?
It's honestly a beautiful thing, because, Junior, he really is a good kid.
Did you get involved with a gang?
No, never.
But you did get into some trouble?
I did get into trouble, and honestly, this is right now, me being away from New York is really my rehabilitation.
He got no texts while you were there?
He only had gotten 1 phone call, and that phone call was from his mother at 11:28.
And what did she say?
She was telling him to come home. He just wanted to be a teen. I met Junior through his sister, Genesis.
Did you date her?
I did date her. Junior was 10. I remember because his 11th birthday.
You were at the party?
I remember that cake because he got so happy about it. I stood on my stoop, my front porch of the building, and I just watched him walk down the block, and I knew he wasn't coming. I knew something was wrong. I just felt just this negative energy, like something bad was gonna happen.
We have a lot of people watching this webcast live, and a number were skeptical of the interview. They didn't believe what Jason was saying, but there are some that say, I think he's legit. Another lady, Gladys Rodriguez, said, I believe him. We know that Junior was pronounced dead probably about 20 minutes after he got to the hospital. We saw some of that heartbreaking footage from last week where he slumped down, he collapsed by the security booth and had to wait for an ambulance or a stretcher to take him up to the emergency room, and he was pronounced dead probably about midnight or a little after. And you saw that photo of Junior's mom, Leandra, over her son's body, and very poignant, very sad. We do know that Junior's mother called Jason Velez's stepfather after this happened. Jason confirmed that, and Leandra Feliz was the one who told me that initially. They ended up going to the hospital. They also went to the 48th precinct afterwards, and I was told by a police source that initially Jason Velez was ruled out as having involvement in this crime. We do know that he has a pending criminal case. His old boss accused him this year of robbery and assault, and Jason Velez told us that he is innocent. I know that there is an Instagram war that is going on concerning Jason Velez. He has supporters defending him, and then a lot of other people from various accounts are saying they feel that he's hiding something. It seems that people, not only people that were close to the families involved in this case, but people want to see this as a conspiracy. We have a lot of people from around the world who have written to me, and they look at this almost as a mini-series. It's not a mini-series. It's a very serious news story. Someone was killed in a most brutal way. And the reason that it's really garnered this international attention is because so much of it was captured on video, and it was so brutal and senseless, and so many men involved. I mean, right now we're told that there were 15 men involved. One of them is a cooperating witness. I'm going to read some of the other comments that are coming in. One person said, I have 2 questions to ask Jason. Did you know why Junior was going to Adam's place? And if you were so hungry, why didn't you go to Junior's house and pick up the money? Well, Jason said it wasn't for food. Carmen Cruz said, I believe he helped set him up. He warned him. Did he know something was going to happen? Jason has denied that. He said that his life was ruined after this happened. He felt like Junior was his little brother. He'd known him since he was about 10 years old, going on 11. And another person is writing, Jewel Bruno, why you didn't walk him home? I think he was set up. Then Annie Ortiz wrote, his face says it all. Junior looked up to him like a grown man. And Josephine Gonzalez is writing, he warned him. He knew what was about to take place. A lot of people are making comments that the police are telling me are not fully accurate. The police source that I spoke to all along since this happened, who actually notified me when a bunch of the arrests were taking place, he said that Jason Velez was ruled out early on. But so many people in the community, even people from other cities who are following this and looking for any piece of information they can get, they don't seem to want to acknowledge that. Pamela Garcia wrote, Junior's mom says that Jason was always together with Junior. He was always eating at his house and stuff. Then Pamela adds, okay, I think it's the same thing. No, actually, she adds to what she wrote. Junior's mom says already that Jason got nothing to do with it. And then she advises that people go to YouTube because there was sort of a reenactment that was on YouTube, or actually one of the other stations, one of the Spanish-speaking stations did a reenactment of the whole crime, what happened. Then Al Martinez says he's just clearing his name because he had to leave the neighborhood and he probably wants to come back for trial without any problems. And then someone said, Ria Vieras, and the plot switches. People sometimes look at this as a mini-series, and as I said, this is not a mini-series. This is real life, and a 15-year-old is dead, and so many people have been impacted by this. Junior's mother was very gracious to do a couple of interviews with me in the last month, and at one point I met her at the cemetery, and she goes almost every day. She has to go to therapy. She doesn't sleep very well. She wakes up 2 or 3 times a night. This has impacted so many people, and the young people of the Bronx. Their summer was not a great summer. A lot of them were afraid to go outside. They stayed close to home. And, you know, it was a wake-up call, I'm sure, also for a lot of families in the Bronx, made them realize you have to really look at who your children are hanging out with, who they've become friends with. We can have friends of all types, even myself over the years when I was young. We have friends that are very different, and we have to make our own decisions about our lives, obviously, but it really gave parents food for thought, how they can handle their young people. How do we let them grow and not be harmed? Rebecca Rosario wrote, he was 20 years old, she said, of Jason Velez. Why is he with the 15-year-old? And then another person, G sitting pretty. Oh, now all of a sudden he was warned. So, you know, a lot of comments are coming online. As I said, I've noticed Instagram wars, people making comments about how we're covering the case. You know, the fact of the matter is the first few months, mostly I was doing the criminal investigation. Whenever there was a new arrest, I would usually find out information about the suspect's background, often the circumstances under which that person was arrested, and that went on for a couple of months. And only recently I've looked at other aspects of the case. And as reporters, we have to be very careful. We can't just go by things that we see on the internet. Even photos that are on the internet, they could be doctored. We have to be very, very careful. And we have to go with sources that we trust. And I've been trying to find the documentation that would match up to certain things going on in this case. There actually was footage that I just found in the last day from Boston Road, and I'm going to screen that because apparently it's an address very close to where the alleged gang leader of Sunset was living. And there was this alleged meeting that took place among the suspects before Junior was killed. And the police are saying, and the prosecutors are saying, they were told to go out and get rivals from Sunset. So I will be looking at that video, and I will be presenting a couple of more stories this week. Tomorrow at 10 p.m., I will do more on Jason Velez. And then I have a little bit of footage now of some other people that I met today in the Bronx. They live very close to the bodega. I think Andrea, our producer, has that footage. They're sisters, and they looked out the window when they heard what was going on downstairs. You see the bodega below, and they saw Junior being killed by all those people. They saw the cars leave. They were petrified, and they decided to go downstairs. And we have seen some of these people on the video that we received last week. And they say, ran up to St. Barnabas Hospital, and they tried to help Junior, they say. And they said his last words were, water, water. One of them supposedly had a tourniquet. She used her T-shirt and tried to put pressure on Junior's lethal neck wound. And of course, it wasn't enough to save him. And he died about 20 minutes later. So there's a lot going on with this case, a lot of emotion, especially online. We have to be as responsible as we can be. There is a lot of demand for information, and we are responding to that demand when it's appropriate, when we have the information that we feel we can bring to the public. So I would ask you to be patient and know that I'm asked to do a lot of different stories week to week. On 9/11, I did a special report on the 10,000 people who now have cancer related to 9/11 exposure. And I do a lot of criminal stories. And I also do human interest stories, as I said at the beginning of this webcast. But please be aware that we try our best to be responsible and to bring you the information we feel is appropriate. We thank you for joining us this evening and for commenting, and hope that you'll be around tomorrow evening at 10 o'clock, Pix 11 News at 10, when I bring you part 4 of the Junior Files. Thank you and good night.